Oh, John, it has been quite the week in Seattle sports, man. It was almost the perfect weekend, but the Seahawks ended up losing 17-13 to the 49ers. But the Mariners scored 28 runs in 2 days against the Braves, and they haven't lost since some Etsy Witchcraft went on. So we've got some discussion on that today, some floaters and flounderers, value dogs, NFL discussions. We got the Storm making the playoffs. It's a big day for us. The good thing is we don't have to talk about the Huskies because they have a bye this upcoming week, so we get to avoid that discussion, even though they did really good this weekend. But, John, anything to say before we dive into it?
Just that I just think of this last Seahawks game as the last preseason game. So season really starts next week. Lots of sports to talk about. Let's get in.
Yes, so for those of you on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, we are live on YouTube. So here is some Coyote picking for you, but we will be coming back to YouTube right away. All right, John, we're going to start off with the Mariners, and we're going to start off mainly with what has been the witchcraft thing, the offensive explosion that's been going on. The pitching has kind of kicked it into a gear a little bit, where they were a little rough for the last few weeks, but they've been pretty good over the last stretch. How do you want to break it down, this Mariners discussion? Because we've got a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, well, I think the easiest thing to note is the lowest hanging fruit, which is that we gave up 25 runs in 3 games against the Rays. Since then, we've given up 10 runs in the subsequent 5 games. So the pitching has just been lights out. It's been so much better. The starters have been playing awesome. We've been getting awesome relief pitching. Lots of fun offense to talk about. Obviously, there was an 18-run game against the Braves where the Mariners outscored the Seattle Seahawks on Football Sunday. But I really think the story of this 5-game win streak has been the pitching.
Yeah, I mean, 2 runs in the 4-game win streak, where we've got the St. Louis Cardinals game coming up tonight while we're recording this. But yeah, 2 runs in the last 2 games against Atlanta, and then the first game against St. Louis, and then 3 in the second game against St. Louis. Just a lot of what feels like dominant wins and people stepping up when they need to, right? You have the Randy 4 RBI game that happened yesterday. You had Josh Naylor. I feel like he's hit a home run. I think he's hit a home run in the last 2 games, and they've both felt just massive. Obviously, Atlanta games, it was just 5 home runs in back-to-back games by the Mariners. It's crazy with everything going on. But yeah, I think it's really good to see like Brian Wu get back to form in that Cardinals start, where he gives up 2 runs over 6 innings on 2 hits. Just looks really solid. Didn't have any walks. You could talk Castillo giving up, I believe, 1 run, and then the second run in that Atlanta blowout was a relief pitcher. But Castillo had a really nice 6-inning start in that game. Just really finding their footing. I think there was probably something to do with the team. I think that player meeting that happened last week was very important, just for getting the pitching back on track, getting the vibes back on track for these guys. And yeah, you can really see it come to fruition here. Let's talk. The Mariners are, I think, at this point 1 game back from the Astros. I think that's the case. It feels weird that they're still in AL West contender right now. But how are you feeling about that?
I feel good. It's this funny point in the season where all year it was a 2-man race and the Rangers were nothing. They were just too far back to even be worried about. And then, yeah, it's been this weird little stretch where both the Mariners and the Astros really sucked there for a minute. And then the Astros had like 2 decent series and opened the lead up to like 5 or 6 games. But thanks to this stretch and the Astros doing everything they can to blow the lead right back to us, suddenly this is a series again. It's like, okay, more Astros Mariners. Don't look now. The Rangers are a game behind us and could well win this division on their own. So this has gone from a 2-horse race to a 3-horse race. But I do have to say I'm feeling good about it. I do just think, this team has all the pieces it needs to at least secure a wild card spot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so we finish up this series against St. Louis tonight. We've got a 4-game series against LA, a big series against Kansas City, who's technically still on our tail when it comes to the wild card. Then you've got a series against Houston. That's at Houston. That's going to be the tiebreaker series, right? I think the Mariners and Astros have split the season series, so that's going to be a huge one for the Mariners to come in swinging. And then a series against Colorado and the Dodgers. So 3 series that I think are very winnable in the Angels, Royals, and Colorado. And then a couple that are going to be a little tougher, but at the same time could be very, very impactful for this playoff seeding. And I feel like this happens every September for the last 5 years, where it's just like, hey, the Mariners, the Astros, and the Rangers are going to be fighting within one game of each other for the last month of the season. That's just how it's going to work. The good thing is we get to avoid playing the Rangers the rest of the way, and it's just they got to win out, and the Mariners are, I believe their magic number is 15 as of yesterday, so that's really big. And we'll be looking for that as we progress throughout the rest of the season. Anything else to really dive into? Obviously, there's the Guardians are chasing us as well. Rangers are a game back. The offense has clicked. The Witchcraft thing, as much as I want to believe in it, we did stop scoring 10 runs a game, so I can't.
It was a fun 2-game stretch there, but yeah, then Witchcraft not really a real thing. Just one last thing on the standings, because we are getting down to the tail end of the season. These wild card and playoff races are becoming very heated and very real. Cleveland and the Royals are both still technically in the hunt, but they're a full 3 to 4 games behind. So again, the Mariners would essentially have to collapse, and in which case they're not going to get the playoff spot or the wild card anyway, because there are too many good teams here at the top. So really, assuming the Mariners are in the chase, it is a 4-horse race for 3 wild card spots, with the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Rangers. Because you can put the Astros in there too, but then one team has to take the division. So assuming this is a wild card race, those are the teams to look at. The good news is both of those AL East teams have pretty tough schedules going forward. The Yankees, not so much. They're in the middle of a series with Detroit, and they're lost game 1, so hopefully that continues to go badly. And then they've got a big series against the Red Sox. But the Red Sox have a brutal stretch down the way. They play the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and the Tigers. So, yeah, 2 of the 3 division leads and the team directly ahead of them in the wild card. So while Boston could hold on to their lead, they're currently 3 games ahead of the Mariners in that wild card spot. They are going to be hard pressed to stay where they are, especially if the Mariners continue to climb, just because they're looking at least probably 5 losses in those 3 series.
Yeah, and my thought is if the Mariners can keep progressing, obviously we love that home field advantage, but the Mariners feel like of all teams that they really need it. In terms of just the vibes around this team and everything, it feels like they're really catalyzed at home right now. So the more that we progress at the standings, if we can take that AL West crown, like that's a huge accomplishment for this team. If we can get home field advantage for that wild card round where we're playing the 6th seed, whether that's crazily enough could be the Red Sox or the Rangers or the Astros, could be any of those teams. If we're playing that in T-Mobile, that just gives me a lot more confidence. So that's what I'm looking for. Is if we can take over, that's a huge step up. I don't think I don't think there's a chance we get that 2 seed, right?
No, I don't. The Blue Jays would have to completely collapse. That's not happening. They've been so nails. I was watching the Houston game yesterday. I watched the 9th and 10th inning of that game, and man, dude, the Blue Jays they're stone cold baddies on that team. So you got to respect it. Yeah, I'm talking about chasing down the second wild card. Obviously, the easiest path forward is to close the 1-game gap for the division. But just saying that even if the division is missed, assuming they continue to play hard, I think there's a 70% chance they make the playoffs just with the way this end of the schedule is shaken. But let's make it easy. Let's just win this thing out.
Exactly. All right. That was a quick discussion, but we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to jump into some floaters and flounders for this Mariners team. And I'm going to go first, John. I am going to take the one and only Edward Bizardo. I don't know that anybody was ready for that discussion, but it kind of needs to be had. I think we've talked about him once in Floaters and Flounders this season. And look, Bizardo's been really solid. He's given up 1 run since August 9th, right? He's given up 1 run in his last, what is that? Let me just do some quick math. That is 14
games?
14 appearances.
No, sorry, 14.
Jesus. Man's trying to
Your
throw me
math
off.
is better than mine.
He's given up 1 run in his last 14 appearances. Only 11 hits, too. His whip is down to 1 on the season. His ERA is down to 2.5. This guy's just been nails. And it does help that, right, he's pitching that 7th inning. He's pitching against what the Mariners likely believe is the weakest portion of the opposing team's lineup. But they've really been less strategic, I guess I should say, than previous years, right? The Mariners used to throw Andres Munoz in the 7th, 8th, or ninth, whatever the opposing team's toughest hitters were. They would just throw Munoz against them. But they've really relegated him back to that closer role where it's Munoz in the ninth, Brash in the 8th, and Bizardo, if it's a great start, Bizardo's throwing that 7th. And so whoever he's going against, he's been very successful on the season, right? It's just been really solid. His ERA has been slowly climbing down basically since the start of the season. He was in April and May, he was kind of in the mid fours for his ERA, and now he's down to 2.5. And I'm just feeling really good about him every time he comes out on the mound. Basically throwing one inning, getting out of whatever situation he is. Maybe a runner gets on base, but he's only walked one guy in that same frame. He's only allowed one walk in his last 14 appearances. That's really good for a reliever. And so we just had to shout this guy out. He's been nails for this team, and a dude that you didn't expect at the start of the season. You were like, maybe it's going to be Santos. Maybe he would be in this spot. But Edward Bizardo, a crazy find. Good for him. Good for him at age 30.
He's got a 0.4 whip in the month of September, following up 0.95 in the month of August. He's been awesome. And sometimes, especially with the relief pitchers, I just think you have to look at batters faced because, it can be hard to quantify what you're looking at sometimes. You're used to these full game starters and their statistics. But in you said his last 14 games, he's averaged about an inning per game, but he's faced 41 batters is the number in that last 14 games. So 41 batters, one walk, one earned run. That's crazy. That is really, really good. Shout out to the Bizardo. He certainly deserves the love. And for a guy that is, I am sure you've mentioned him before, but this is the first time we're giving him a spotlight. He's been awesome. He's got also, look at his vault page. He's got great numbers. He's read all over the place. Love to see it.
Yeah, he's a guy who's really succeeded from the T-Mobile Park factor, right? He doesn't get a lot of extension. He doesn't induce a lot of ground balls, but he is very successful at T-Mobile where he's able to get some fly balls to stay in the yard. I will say this is the most games he's pitched by far in his entire career. He's been in the league since 2021, and last year was the most he pitched at 23 games. This year he's at 66. He's played in 66 games, 72 innings pitched. Like, this guy has been a workhorse. 72 innings pitched for a reliever is a lot. So keep your eye on that. I don't think it's going to be something where his arm falls off or anything like that, but just keep that in your head. You hope this guy can stay healthy the rest of the way.
All right. My first floater for the week. I'll just give you guys a spoiler. They're all floaters this week. We're 4-0 since we've talked, so got to shout them out. My first floater for the week is another reliever of much praise, and that is Andres Munoz. He is coming off a stretch. He had a tough go there against the Padres and the Guardians, where for the first time all season, he gave up runs in 3 straight outings. I believe all 3 of those were losses as well. And there was just a moment there of like, man, have we been pushing Munoz too hard? Have we been relying on him too much? Like, what's going on? We're so used to this guy just being complete nails. And he's bounced back in a really big way. 3 straight scoreless innings. Obviously, the 2 closing situations against St. Louis this week have both been big, and he's pulled them all the way out of it. He's got a 1.0 whip on the month, 0.0 ERA. That is what happens when you allow 0 runs. It's just been really nice. After really the first time all season, there's been real conversation about Munoz and like where he is as our ace reliever. It's nice for him to close that door right away with 3 straight scoreless.
Yeah, it's almost, to me, insane how comparable he's been to Bizardo. I say that like with all respect to Munoz, but Munoz has 71 strikeouts. Bizardo, I believe, had 72. 25 walks from Munoz. Bizardo had 26. And he's thrown 17 less innings, right? So he's been basically just as efficient with his strikeouts and everything like that, but he's just thrown an entire 2 games less worth of innings, basically. And so it just goes to show how efficient this guy is when it comes to striking people out, how dominant this guy is. Obviously, he still can walk some people. He's not immune to walking people, but he gets good ground balls. That's it. That's his strength. It's like we were talking about. He's a guy, or for Bizardo, he doesn't get a lot of ground balls. Andres Munoz, with that slider that just drops, he's able to get a lot of ground balls, induce a lot of soft contact, and that's where he's the most successful, right? Obviously, he's got the sweeping stuff that can strike people out. But Munoz is his most successful when he's inducing soft contact, and he's been able to do that really well this entire season. So really good job by him. 34 saves on the year so far. That's second in the American League. I mean, he's still got a little bit of ways to go, but he's been just so good for this year. 1.63 ERA is insane, and a WHIP of 1.05. He's just been good.
Yeah, third in saves in the entire MLB. He's just been so elite, and yeah, Bizarro deserves respect. It's good to point out those positive stats for him, but it's also worth noting that Munoz is pitching in the tensest situations.
Highest leverage.
Yeah, highest leverage. Yeah, and those things make a very real difference. It's a reason that all of these ace closers have, similar personality types and are always just so reserved. They've got those really low heartbeats that just never rise because, it takes an awesome and very intelligent athlete to be a great relief pitcher, but it takes a special kind of psychopath to be an ace, an ace saver, whatever you'd call him. Ace
Closer.
relief.
There you go.
Closer. Thank you. I was looking for closer. Yeah, so Munoz has been awesome. He's been awesome all year, but just wanted to shout him out.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we are going to talk. I have to drop this name because we've talked about him, I think, 3 or 4 times since the Mariners acquired him, and
Already.
he seems unstoppable right now, and it's Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor in the month of September, which for him has only been 7 games, but that has been 7 crazy games. He's in 348 with a 375 on base, a 783 slugging for an OPS of 1.158. On the season now, his OPS has climbed above 800. His slugging is a little over 450. Like, this is a guy who you acquired and you didn't expect for him to really slug that much at all. And he's come over and he's produced enough power to really be considered like a solid first base option for the future when it comes to like a first baseman having the type of bat to be a first baseman. Like, this is what you would expect from your primary first baseman. And if Josh Naylor continues to do this, like, the Mariners might have to sign him. I think they already should, but they might have to sign him if he continues to do this for the rest of the month.
I wish we could have signed him as soon as we secured him because, unfortunately, the bag is only getting heftier as he continues to play this way. But if they don't bring him back, I'm gonna be apoplectic. He's been like, I don't care what you have to restructure. I don't care who you have to send out the door. He's probably my favorite Mariner right now. He has been so good and so good in T-Mobile, which we will talk about, and such a good vibes guy. Like, I mean, certainly not for the next 10 years, but for the next year, I'd probably rather have him than Julio. Like, he's just, I just love him to death. You touched on the great month of September he's had. I just want to note, his first 3 games of the month were against Tampa Bay. He went 1 for 9, and it was a single with 0 runs batted in and 0 home runs in those first 3 games. That means in his last 4 games, he has 8 hits. With those 8 hits, he's hit in 7 RBI and has hit 3 home runs. So not only is the power crazy, not only is the consistency crazy, but, and this is again my point, he is so good in clutch situations, and we've got him in the perfect spot in this lineup where there are always guys on base when he comes up to bat, and he is always hitting them in. It's intoxicating. I love it.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna get on my soapbox and just talk about why we need to sign this guy. The Mariners haven't had a player that I think has the same hitting profile since they had Kyle Seager, right? Kyle Seager, I think, retired back in 2021, 2022. I don't remember exactly. But the thing about Josh Naylor's swing in T-Mobile Park, and the reason that we think, he's hitting so well, is that he's basically a replica of Kyle Seager, right? In terms of Cal Raleigh has just kind of pure power. Cal Raleigh can hit the ball out of any park, but Kyle Seager had always had kind of like fringe power that played well in terms of the right field bleachers at T-Mobile Park because of the wind carry. And Josh Naylor, I think, has a very similar profile when it comes to his power tool. Is not actually that high. Every time he hits the ball hard, I'm always like, is that going to go out of the yard? And I think he's got the same hit tool as Kyle Seager when it comes to that. And so for that reason, I think he's a kind of a perfect acquisition. He's right at the prime of like, this is when he would want to sign a decent contract. He's 28. It feels like he's been in the league forever, but he's 28. And it's just the perfect time for him to go, okay, I can play for this team for 4 or 5 years And then I get to my age 33 season. If I'm still performing like this, he gets another bag. Like if he's not going to get a 10-year contract. He's not going to get anything like that. But if he can bet on himself for 2 or 3 years and then do the same thing over the next couple seasons, like that is the perfect situation for Josh Naylor and obviously for the Mariners if he keeps doing this. So I think it's the perfect time, perfect confluence of events to be like, hey, you can be our next Kyle Seager, the replacement for that guy who is hitting 20 home runs and just really impactful for this team, hitting basically, I think, third for most of the 2010s. But be that number 5 hitter and just really get plugged in a great way with this Mariners organization. It would probably take getting rid of Luis Castillo just in terms of balancing the money. And since there's no salary cap, you don't even really have to. That's just kind of all on Stanton. But
we're being realistic.
I'm being realistic. You probably get rid of Luis Castillo and you go from there. But I think Josh Naylor is the perfect candidate to get like a 2-3 year contract worth $60 million, $70 million. And that's just, you stick him right in this lineup and he continues to perform at this level and you are golden.
Yeah, you've got to do it. I appreciate you being realistic enough to do some math in your head and say this is probably what it would cost. But any Mariners fan paying attention right now, there's not a Mariners fan out there that doesn't love Luis Castillo, and there's also not a Mariners fan out there that wouldn't make that trade because Naylor's been so good. And two things: one, don't be disrespectful to my boy Josh by comparing him to Kyle Seager. Naylor's going to hit 25 home runs this year, and he's going to bat 290 doing it. So they're not exactly the same. But I understand the point is well received about kind of hitting profile. The other thing I wanted to note is that, yeah, the Mariners cannot keep. How many times have we seen them go and find a good MLB hitter and say, hey, come to T-Mobile. Let's try to make it work. We need help with the offense. And then they come in and it doesn't work here. Not only is this guy, he's here now, and it's working. You have to secure him. It's the bird in the hand is 10 times as valuable as the bird in the bush because you don't know if the bird's going to survive when it's in the hand, but this one is. Long way to go there. But speaking of keeping him in T-Mobile, I know we were looking at some pretty crazy home and away stats. You have those in front of you?
Yeah, dude, he's hitting, I believe, 340, basically 338 in home games, and that includes the Arizona part of the season. Baseball Savant doesn't necessarily show the difference between T-Mobile Park home games and Arizona home games, but he's hitting 340 basically at home, and he's hitting 240 on the road. And that's something that's fully continued. That's fully continued. You see it even in this most recent stretch of games at Tampa Bay, and then he comes back to Seattle against the Cardinals, and it's just like this guy, for some reason, whatever it is, sees the ball so well in T-Mobile Park, and he's still a good hitter when he's on the road, but he sees the ball really well in T-Mobile Park, and that's something that we, like you were saying, we don't find that every day. That's almost impossible to find as the Mariners try to acquire new players every year. It's like this is the perfect time for them to acquire a guy who hits better in T-Mobile, better at home, and just the electricity of this Mariners fan base has been really good for him as well, I think. But he hits better at home, better in T-Mobile than he does anywhere else on the road is what it seems like. So I would definitely have to sign him, basically.
Yeah, not only 100 points on the average, but 150 points better in slugging too. So it's just, loves being in T-Mobile, man. You love to see it.
Hard to
love
see.
To see it. Yeah, hard to see it. Okay, I'm going to talk about another relative newcomer. I guess it's getting a little old to call him a newcomer, but that is our dear friend Randy Arozarena, coming off just an awesome series. He's had a couple big home runs. I guess only one home run, but it was a big one in St. Louis last night. But he is batting 280 in the month of September. Almost all that, like Naylor, it's really been localized to this last 4. But he's got 6 hits in the last 4 games. He's been coming through in big spots. Yeah, we really should have done Randy and then Naylor because everything I have to say about Randy is just kind of the C version of what we've been getting from Josh the last couple of weeks. But Randy's been really consistent this season, and every once in a while we just need to shout him out because him and Cal have kind of been the two constants all year. Julio's done Julio things, fluctuating and slowly getting better as the season goes on. But we love our boy Randy.
I think the big thing for Randy that we've seen over the last stretch, because earlier on was when he really was generating a lot of power, right? His OPS was hovering in that like 470-ish range for most of the season, and now it's down to around 450. But what we've really seen improve is his on-base percentage. He's been taking walks. He's been just finding ways to get on base. His batting average is obviously up still, but his on-base percentage has jumped over 100 points just in the last month. So his month-to-month average jumped 100 points. He's just been really good, right? And he's a really good leadoff hitter because he evaluates pitchers, he gets on base, and he really like I've said hasn't provided a ton of power, and that leads to him just like giving opportunities to other players. And you see it when Cal's behind Randy Rosarena, Julio's behind Randy. It's just like that combo feels really nice, and you can see it when these guys come up to the plate. They're more comfortable having a guy that gets on base in front of them. And he's still a really valuable hitter, right? His OPS is hovering around 790, 800. Like, he's still a really valuable hitter, above average WRC plus guy. That's all you can really ask for from a guy who's fallen off a little bit since his prime a few years back, but he's still good, right? He's still a 750, 800 OPS guy on the season, and that's just valuable enough for what he's done. And he's also on pace to get 30 home runs for the first time in quite some time. So, huge for Randy. He's had a really good season, and I don't think you can discount how good he's been for this team in that leadoff spot specifically.
Yeah, 100%. And I do just think, you know, you need your specialists. You need your like JP leadoff hitter type where it's all about average and slugging's not as important. And then you need your Cals. Cal's got a decent average, but we all know what he's bringing to the table. But I really like having guys like Randy and Naylor, ironically enough, kind of similar guys, where it's just they're kind of giving it to you both ways. They've got good averages, they've got good slugging, not great. They're good on base. They can draw walks. So I really appreciate having these really general offensive tools. They're just harder. In some ways, they're harder to pitch to than a guy like Cal. At least a guy like Cal, it's like what you're trying to do against Cal. He just hits a lot of balls you don't think he's going to out of the park. A guy like Randy, it's like how do I want to attack him? What's my approach here? I just think it's great to have some guys like that peppered around your lineup.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we've already spent 30 minutes talking about the Mariners. We were not planning on doing that. So let's take this time. We will jump immediately into talking about the Storm. The Storm just made the playoffs. They are in the 8th seed, and I believe they'll play the Lynx in the 8-1 matchup. They needed to win this game. Otherwise, they were still on the edge of the playoffs with, I think it was Indiana or somebody chasing them. I don't remember exactly. Obviously, Caitlin Clark out for the year makes it a little tougher for them. But the Storm win this game against the Golden State Valkyries, after being down, I believe it was 8 entering the fourth quarter, which is really cool, right? They make this comeback. The Valkyries are the 7th seed, so really good for the Storm. They've had a really just solid season so far at 23 and 21. What do you have to say about them? I feel like you've been high on their just kind of what they've done this year with their focus on getting Dominique going, as well as kind of treating the older players to at least a little bit of success.
Totally. Yeah, it was awesome. One, just a great stretch there down near the end of the season. We talked several times about how the incorporation of Dom into their lineup, corresponded to kind of a shaky part of their schedule in terms of wins, losses, but they've really cleaned it up. It's amazing seeing the way that she's, become integrated and become part of the team plan. And man, she is so good, man. She finished the game with 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks in 22 minutes. So not huge numbers. It was the loudest 9 and 7 I've ever seen in my life. A couple of huge offensive rebounds to and ones. The blocks were disgusting. She's just so good around the basket and so big. You can just see the problems she causes while she's out there.
You're killing her.
And her pick and roll game with Diggins and with Skies is both really impressive. The other big story was Erica Wheeler. Obviously hit 5 threes. She was electric, including what was essentially the game-winning shot, a nice little pull-up mid-range jumper with 20 or so seconds left in the game. She was great. And then, Brittany Skies, who's been awesome for us in the last couple of weeks, 14 points, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Diggins had a 10 and 6, Nyeka 16 and 8. Ezzy Magbagor, love seeing her kind of step up in a big way. 9 rebounds and 3 blocks. She also was 2 for 2 from 3, and both of them were really big shots. So kind of surprising beyond the arc output from Ezzy. And then just the last thing on the game itself was, if you want to know what the difference was in this very narrow 74-73 game, it was the bench play. I mean, Golden State only got 5 total points off of their bench. Between Dom and Erica, we had 26 points off our bench. Two of our leading scorer and fifth leading scorer were both coming off the bench for us. So nice seeing that depth come into play, and excited to hopefully get one win against a very dominant Minnesota Lynx team.
Yeah, dude, Erica Wheeler was so good in this game. She went 5 for 7 from 3. The rest of the team went 2 for 10. She like individually carried this game. She went 6 for 13 from the field. The team shot 40.6% from the field. Like, she was electric. Obviously the bench was huge. They went 10 for 20 just in field goal attempts, and that was just the efficiency coming off the bench was really nice. Erica Wheeler was the spark plug that was needed during this game to really pull us back, because this Valkyries team has been pretty good, all things considered. In their inaugural season, they've been pretty solid. So really good to see the Storm do Storm things and kind of get back to a little bit of normalcy with just pretty solid guard play, all things considered. Like, the guards were pretty good in this game, and Skylar Diggins has fallen off a little bit just in terms of her production and how good she's been this season. But I think overall we've been happy with how this team has performed in kind of that top 7.
Totally.
All right. We're going to go quick through a couple of things. We've got to talk college football because we're college football guys. We enjoy college football. The Huskies and Cougars are both 2-0. The Huskies dominating against UC Davis. Not Damon Williams. Jonah Coleman with 5 touchdowns, 70 to, I believe it was 10, if I remember correctly. Just, there's not much to say besides utter dominance, right? Jonah Coleman was so good on the ground, and this UW team is kind of showing how it has the ability to be Big Ten dominant with the run game. So hopefully we can continue that. The next game that they will play is September 20th, so they got a bye week. But it is September 20th in the Apple Cup, so they'll play the Cougars. Anything to say about that game from you, John?
Yeah, I obviously just total domination. Coleman with 5 touchdowns on 100 yards. Honestly, kind of like, how do you get 5 touchdowns on only 100 yards of rushing? Obviously, he was awesome, but that's crazy sauce. 70 points. If you're wondering how you get there, it's 10 touchdowns. That's how that math works out.
Yep.
They scored 4 touchdowns in the second quarter. I'm not sure I've ever seen a team score 4 touchdowns in a quarter. I guess it probably happens all the time. That's how, Ohio State drops 70 on Grambling. I'm sure they're probably dropping four touchdown quarters, but just pretty crazy how efficient you have to be to have 4 drives and turn them all into touchdowns in a single quarter. Yeah, pretty dominant. I was also pretty impressed with Damon Williams. Obviously, the situation didn't put a lot of pressure on him, but 250 and a touchdown. He was getting the ball downfield. Yeah, next game in the Apple Cup, just a little preparation for another team in red and white. So hopefully they can secure that one before going and playing Ohio State.
Yeah, I remember looking at this game, and at one point Jonah Coleman had 5 touchdowns in 15 carries. I don't know if he got any more because at that point they were probably up by so much, but I think he scored a touchdown on a third of his carries, which is just insane.
That's completely wild.
If you really think about it, that's gnarly.
Yeah. One thing I didn't realize, I will talk about this on a subsequent pod, I'm sure, but Ohio State game is at Husky Stadium.
Yeah.
Are you flying back to Seattle to watch that game?
No, I won't be around to watch that game, but I will be tuned in, 100% tuned into that one. It's going to be legendary. Hoping, that Dogs home record is on the line a little bit. They've got the longest home winning streak, I think, tied with, it's like Georgia or Ohio State, one of those two teams. So really excited for that game. That's going to be very fun. Quickly, we'll jump into the Wazoo game. They beat San Diego State 36-13, and it was a good game. We kind of talked a little bit of crap about Jackson Potter in the last one, just in the sense of he wasn't as electric, but 28 for 42 in this one, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked really good. Didn't do as much on the ground as a Mateer or anybody like that, a Cam Ward, but this is a guy we're not expecting to be the next Heisman. So Washington State's doing what they need to do against these teams as they get into the tougher part of their schedule. So good for them.
Yeah, the a big bounce back game for Jackson Potter. He was awesome. 257 and 3 touchdowns, 112 QBR. We're not super impressed with San Diego State football.
No.
Those helmets are ridiculously sick. I love those Aztec helmets, but the program has a lot of ground to cover. But a nice win. The thing I'll be looking for going forward is, can the running game continue to step up. They were better today, but considering they were playing the competition that they were, I was hoping to see something like 5 or 6 yards a carry. The team carried for about 130 yards on 30 or so carries. So that math is wrong. Maybe it's yeah. Anyway, they're averaging about 3.5 yards a carry over the course of the game is what they did. So hopefully that number can continue to climb. They'll need to take a little pressure off Potter for him to be successful, but he had a big bounce back game. So yeah, the fly zone is back open in Washington State. So love to see that.
Yep. All right, now it's time to jump to some NFL football. It's time for the Seahawks discussion. You've waited long enough, audience, and I think we need to talk about it. 17-13, the Seahawks go down to the 49ers last week, and I was not the most impressed with anything that happened. Obviously, the only receiver that did anything was JSN. 9 receptions for 112 yards. Next highest was Cooper Kupp with 2 receptions for 15 yards. They didn't even really try to throw to anybody else, right? JSN had 13 targets. The next most was 3 to Cooper Kupp. Like, they were really just like, we're either giving the ball to Charbonnet or Walker, or we're throwing it to JSN. And I think there's got to be something that they mix up in that point. But I just want your initial reaction. Sorry, I kind of dove in a little quickly there. Give me your initial reactions to this game, John.
Well, I'm sure any Seahawks fan has heard the same couple of things about Mike McDonald not being very aggressive on that 4th-and-1 play to potentially ice the game, and Reek Woolen forgetting he was playing football twice on those last 2 Niners drives to allow the comeback to happen. But my takeaway was pretty positive. I mean, the Niners have always played us so tough, and they got pretty lucky. I thought the defense was excellent, except for 2 plays, and I thought Darnold did a good job of avoiding pressure. He was not getting sacked at some crazy rate like people were afraid that he might. Automatically has a good connection with JSN, which you love to see. Obviously, that'll be one of the most important components for our offense to be successful. I was pretty encouraged. We'll talk about more personnel specific discussions, but as a team, I saw the vision for a top 5 defense and an offense that can do enough to hang with that defense.
Yeah, I think the thing that I was thinking about with the Mike McDonald aggression, on that 4th-and-1 was he wants to trust his defense. He needs to build that trust. He needs to think, okay, my defense and what I've created so far can do this, can stop this opposing team that's been pretty good so far. And so I'm okay with it, especially early in the season. Like, he's kind of testing the limits of his defense. And so for that, I understand. Obviously, you want that for the win, right? You want to go for the win as a fan. You want to see that, but I can see where he is as a defensive-minded coach. I can get that. So I'm not going to fault him for that.
It's not like they were up 3 and the field goal put them up 6. Like, they, the difference matters in those situations. But yeah, one storyline I wanted to talk about, which I haven't heard a ton around, just because of the loss and because it's more fun to talk about Darnold and JSN. But we may have already felt this way, but this game there was a lot of evidence that maybe Zach Charbonnet is just better than Kenneth Walker.
I think you and I have known this for a while.
yeah, and that the team may actually recognize that Charbonnet is better. He got 2 more carries than Kenneth. He more than doubled Kenneth's output in terms of yards, almost doubled his yards per carry, and obviously got the touchdown. So, yeah, I guess any hot notes on that comparison?
It's a good thing we told everybody to fade Kenneth Walker in the fantasy discussion that we had a couple weeks ago. We're so right. Everybody was like, oh, yeah, Kenneth Walker in the 4th round. Everything that I saw on fantasy football was like, draft Kenneth Walker in the 4th round if he's available. We knew not to do that. You and I were on it.
We told him to close the gap. We said those 2 should be way closer. They were like 30 or 40 players apart, and it's like they should be like 5 players apart, and maybe not in the order that you would expect. So great to see that from Charbonnet. And also, it's just he's one of those players where they come through and you're always just waiting for him to put it together a little bit, because he is big and strong and fast. He looks more like Derrick Henry than he does like Kenneth Walker. And with those guys, if they can just see the game a little bit better, they become very, very utilizable players. There will always be spots in this offense for Kenneth where you need somebody with a little more wiggle. But these up and down, kind of vertical runners are really, really good when they can see the field. And I think maybe he's just really starting to put that stuff together. So hopefully that's the case. And we continue to get more and more right.
Yeah, my thing about Charbonnet and the beauty of what he does is he kind of, you see him and the way that he runs with patience reminds you of a Derrick Henry, reminds you of a Christian McCaffrey, who just like will want to sit behind a couple blockers, try to find the gap, and he'll try and shoot that gap for 3 or 4 yards. He's not trying to break away every single time. He's just looking to get small chunks, but he's getting 3.5 yards per carry at this point. I guess almost 4 yards per carry on average, but it felt like he was getting 3.5, and that's a good run game, right? If you're getting 3.5 yards per carry every single time, that's really efficient. That's really good running back play, and I really like to see that from Charbonnet. And every time I watch him, I'm like, this guy reminds me of the way that McCaffrey runs or Derrick Henry runs. I was watching that Bills Ravens game, and I was like, man, Derrick Henry is so patient. That's why he's been so good for so long. Like, that is the success. Obviously, Charbonnet doesn't have the tools that those guys have, but he's got the like mental stuff and he's got the training to do those kinds of things. So that was what I was really impressed by.
Yeah. Obviously, the loss is hard to swallow, but there will be another dawn. We're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers next. The last thing I want to say about this game before I'm ready to move on is Milrow. Love seeing the designed run for our rookie quarterback, Jalen Milrow. Got one touch early in the first quarter. It was the third play of the game, I believe. Designed run. He just got a yard on it, which you hate to see. I wish he would have busted that one. But I also love seeing Coach Mike get him a touch early in the season. Say, hey, kid.
Let him cook a little bit.
Yeah, we know you don't have the ball in your hands right now, but you're part of this team. We'll get you involved from time to time. So anyway, I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, and here's my hot take. If you're a betting man, I would the Seahawks have probably dropped down a little bit when it comes to, betting them for the playoffs or anything like that. Like, I might
Yes.
take a little bit of money and put that on the Seahawks to make the playoffs or something, because this team is a team that's going to get better as the year goes along, as they learn this, first of all, zone blocking scheme that Clint Kubiak brought into the system, and then also the defensive stuff. The defense gets better as the year goes along. I told you to take the Seahawks defense and stash it away a couple weeks ago for fantasy. Like, I still stand by that. This defense held the 49ers to 17 points with their basically full team intact. Now they're all decimated by injuries because it's the 49ers and everybody expects that. But in general, the Seahawks team is going to get better as the season goes along. I might drop a little bit of money on this team because I think they're plus 900 to maybe, I think it might be win the division, but if at the very least they're probably plus odds to make the playoffs, you guys should take that.
If it's plus 900 to win the division, I think that's a good bet. I mean, obviously the odds are high, but like they should be plus 400 or so. I think that's crazy, crazy math. So, yeah, that's a good one. Looking ahead
Yeah.
to week 2, playing the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Um, yeah, the Steelers team's kind of confusing. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen?
Dude, I'm all in on the Seahawks winning this game. The Steelers, like, first of all, there's no way Aaron Rodgers has that good of a game again. I don't know what happened to the Jets defense, but the Seahawks defense, I feel like will be able to perform at a better level. I don't trust Aaron Rodgers. It's the DK versus the Seahawks game, and we'll see how that goes. But I think the Steelers are getting points, or sorry, they're laying points right now because it's a home game. Other than that, I feel like if it was at the Seahawks, or if it was at Lumen, I think the Seahawks would probably be outright favorites as well. So I think the swing there is that it's at home for the Steelers. But in my opinion, I think this is like the bounce back week for the Seahawks to be like, hey, we're not out of this. Like, this is kind of the perfect time for them to jump in and start getting some wins.
Yeah. Yeah, that Steelers Jets game was so confusing. 66 total points scored. You just never would have guessed. I really thought that was a strength on strength, or sorry, not a strength on strength, but both those teams' strengths were their defense. That clearly was not the case in that game. It's kind of like one of those Punnett Square situations where you look at the results of that game and it's like, well, okay, do both those defenses suck? Well, that would be unexpected. Are both those defenses good, but also both those offenses are good? And then there's also the box of just like, was that game just super weird and fluky and just shouldn't be looked at too hard? That's the one I'm leaning on being
Yeah.
reality.
Yep.
I think the Steelers' defense is good and their offense is bad, and we just didn't really see that in week 1. So this will be good. We know the Seahawks defense is good. We saw it last year. They're not as much of an unknown as the Jets. So if Rodgers does it again against us, I'll start being a believer. But I do expect this to be a closer game. I think the Steelers are favored by over 3 points, which I think is a little strange, but I think they did look sharp. So I'm hoping to learn a lot about the Pittsburgh Steelers by watching this next game.
One other note is that against the 49ers, I don't think we had a ton of play action. I think there was 2 plays that were designed play action, and we'll probably see more of that as the season goes along. And I think it's Sam Darnold figuring out this zone scheme. It's Charbonnet, all the running backs and the blockers figuring out this zone scheme. And then once you do that, you've got a lot more play action opportunities. Sam Darnold's going to be able to get the ball downfield a little bit differently than he was in this one. I really liked. I was enjoying the way that Darnold played, besides a couple of miscues. But overall, I'm expecting this to be a better Darnold game as we keep moving along. He's going to improve, and I think this Steelers game is a good opportunity for that. So excited for this one.
Totally.
All right, John. It's been 45 minutes. We've been keeping the audience back. Should we let loose on some value dogs discussion?
Yeah, people have been waiting patiently for the most important part of these podcasts.
They skip ahead to the last 15, so
as they should. It's all slop up until now. Now we're here to make you some money. Just wanted to shout us out. We each went 2-1 in our 3 picks last week. That's 4-2 for those of us that are really
good work, good math.
For the mathematically challenged out there, I'll go ahead and do that arithmetic for you. So a great start to the year, certainly our best that we've had in our 3 years doing this. So ready to continue to build on that victory of a week.
Yeah, don't let us get hot. It's the time for us to start cooking here.
I'm feeling a little hot right now.
I know. If I go 5-1, there's no coming back from this. I'm going 35-3 on the season. With that, we're going to jump into our value dogs. For those of you that are new, for those of you that don't know what these are, underdogs are better against the spread. Usually, they have been over the last decade than odds-on favorites in terms of against the spread odds. And so we like to, every single week, we pick 3 underdogs that we each like and give you those plus odds. And those are our value dogs. Those are our people that we think you should put your money on. We each went 2-1 last week, like John said. So we are plus on the season. We have not been as plus over the last 2 years, but this is our year. This is where we turn it around and we both do some amazing things. So
let the past die, Tyler. Yeah. Kill it if you have to.
We gotta let it loose. Now. Let it go.
Yeah.
You go first. What's your first pick?
Okay, this I will say, and I feel like I say this every 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't love the dogs this week. But but this is the job. It's so fun and so easy to look at some of these favorites and say I'm gonna smash that line. But that's not how you make money. So we're doing the smart thing here. My first pick's kind of a weird one. It's kind of the reverse psychology of the normal bettor. Normally you're like, okay, you want to wait for a good team to play poorly and then bet on them because people are down on them. What I'm doing is I'm taking a good team that played really bad in week 1 and a bad team that played really good in week 1 and saying, maybe we can just get one more week of that. And with that, I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts plus 1.5 against the Denver Broncos. Not what people are expecting. I'm sure tons of people are hammering that Broncos line. But the fact of the matter is, the Broncos really struggled to move the ball against a pretty mid-Tennessee defense. Their offense was not clicking at all. And congratulations to their defense. They held down a rookie quarterback with no weapons. This Colts offense looked like one of the best in football as they trounced Miami, and their defense looked awesome as well. I actually do think the Colts defense is quite good, maybe top 10 in the NFL. So I think the combo of their defense and our boy Daniel Jones, the Indiana savior, that they're going to find some success. So one more week before the Broncos figure it all out.
I don't love this line because I think the Broncos will figure it out sooner rather than later. This is all coming from an Indianapolis Colts fan, so you guys got to be careful about this one. But
this is not from the heart. This is from the head. I swear.
I will say the Colts looked much better against Miami than I really thought they would. I think I had Miami. I really thought about Miami last week. I didn't go with them, but I really thought about it. So I'm okay with it. I'm not the biggest proponent. This is basically a Colts win against the Broncos bet because 1.5 is not a lot of points. But I support you in your endeavor with this one. I'll let you have that. You can take that one and run with it. For my first pick, I am going to go. We're just going to go right to what we were talking about earlier. The Seahawks are plus 2.5 in this game against the Steelers. I think this is a good opportunity for the Seahawks to win. I think the over-under being 39.5, the NFL does not expect these teams to score, and that bodes well for a plus 2.5 line for value dogs. So all of that being the case, I think it's a great Seahawks bet on plus 2.5. You got to back your boys, and this is the perfect week to do so.
Totally. Yeah, loud and clear. I don't have a ton to disagree with you with there. I think this is going to be a close game, and you're getting points. That's why we do this. That's the point. You get the points, guys. Don't you understand? You're getting points. They're just giving them away.
Yep.
So yeah, I do like that line. All right, for my next one, I'm going to do one. I don't feel great about this one either, but we just gotta push on, and that is the Chicago Bears +6 against the Detroit Lions. The Bears looked really good, I should say. Their defense looked really good for 3 quarters and then terrible. And their offense looked really good for the first and fourth quarter and then terrible in the middle. So that's almost really good for half a total game. Um, I'm just counting on them kind of putting things together a little bit against the Lions. The Lions got absolutely stomped by Green Bay. I think a lot of people are thinking that between some losses on defense and obviously Ben Johnson going to Chicago, that their offense has lost some serious juice. Um, and I also think who knows this Lions team better than Ben Johnson to coach against them. So between those two things and 6 points, which is a lot, again, the Lions could very well win this game. When they win by 5 points, then I'm a winner, and I want that to happen. So I'm taking the Bears.
Yeah, I tell you what, it feels like every game that isn't a blowout right now is between 1 and 4 point wins. Like that's why all these games are 2.5 or +2.5. Like that feels like the zone that every NFL game is in, and you encompass all those with that +6. The only thing you're really concerned about is a blowout, and I don't see that coming from the Lions side of things. They were having trouble running the ball last week, really trying to get it into Jahmyr Gibbs' hands, and he just wasn't able to do much with it. We will see how this Lions team does. I do like this line a lot. I will give you that one. I'll take the bait and say you had a good pick there. With my
Love the points, baby.
There you go. With my second pick, I am going to go with a team that I don't think a lot of people are expecting, and that is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, lightly, I say this with the smallest pinch of my fingers for those of you listening to the podcast, lightly smashed the Carolina Panthers. Are the Carolina Panthers good? Not really. Is their defense really bad? Yeah. But, and there was also a lightning delay in which they scored a bunch of their points afterwards because it was tied going into the lightning delay. But the Jaguars offensively, I think they're kind of poised to be successful against a bad defense like the Bengals. I think the Bengals have a very similar defensive profile to the Carolina Panthers. And for that reason, I think the Jaguars are going to score points. The Bengals looked like they were struggling to score points a little bit, as well as Jacksonville has a decent defensive back room. And so with that being the case, you're going to hold you can't hold Jamar Chase and T. Higgins down, but you're gonna affect them a little bit more than I think people are willing to admit. I think this is going to be like a 35-32 type game. Like it's going to be in the like 31 to 28 point range. I like the +3.5 here. That covers the field goal loss, and it just gives you a good opportunity with the Jaguars.
Nice. I like that. Lightly smashed. That's nice.
That's how I like my burgers, man.
Yeah. Two different directions on that one. Yeah, I really like this line. So I got to be honest, we got our notes tab, and I don't always avoid your pick. Sometimes we just really agree on a pick, and we'll share it. But the first line I looked at was Jags Bengals, and I was like, I like the Jags a lot. But then I saw you had it, so I was like, I'm just gonna let him have it, pick a different one. But one strategy I really like in my not hyper successful career picking these lines, but great last week, is trying to find it where it's like, kind of scenario based, where the Bengals probably have the worst defense in professional football right now. So if the Bengals offense is playing as good as it normally does, they play in really close games because they give up 28 points a game. They had that crazy record where they were like 1-6 in games where they scored 30 points last year. It's like, that I'm sure I'm exaggerating. I mean, it was like 3-3, but it was still like, how are you 3-3 under those circumstances? It's because their defense is that bad. So if Joe Burrow was bad last week. He threw for like 160 and 1 touchdown. If Joe Burrow gets back into form and is playing his game, throwing for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns, they still might lose this game or only win by 3. So even in that scenario, this is a good line. If he continues to struggle, this is just free money they're giving you. Because if they struggle, they are going to get smacked. This is not the Cleveland Browns offense. The Jags are going to score some points against this crappy defense.
Yeah, the thing that worries me about this game is that the money is a lot on the Jaguars. Right, this line opened at +5.5, and it's now down to +3.5. A lot of people are betting the Jaguars. You know how Vegas likes to rig the NFL. So, with that being the case, I'm a little concerned about just where the money's going, but I still like it as a value dog. So I'll say
That's what I do when I lose lines too. I blame the oligarchs. They're
that.
always trying to keep my perfect bets under control. All right, so with my last pick of week two, I'm taking a line that I'm also kind of just surprised by. I don't really get it, and it's the Atlanta Falcons +3.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings were awful there for three full quarters against the Bears, and then just went ballistic. Or I think I would interpret it as the Bears' defense just completely fell apart in that fourth quarter. JJ McCarthy had like 40 yards through three quarters and then had three touchdowns in the fourth. Oh, did it just finally all click for rookie JJ? Yeah. Was that the moment that he figured out professional football after three quarters? No, I think he sucks. And I think he just had a fun little quarter in Chicago. I think the Falcons' offense is really good. Michael Penix is awesome. Bijan is Bijan. There was some question about whether Drake London was going to play, but he will. So I do think this is going to be a game the Vikings are going to have to score a lot of points to keep up, and I do not trust JJ to make that happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of discount how good the Bucks defensive line is and how affecting it can be for a quarterback. And so yeah, the Falcons scored 20 points in that game against Tampa Bay, but that was against, Vita Vea and our UW representative out there. And a good Tampa Bay Bucks defense. And I think the Vikings have a good defense, but there's not as disturbing to the quarterbacks as I think they're given credit for. And you look at their game against Caleb Williams, and he was very much able to perform over those that first quarter and the last quarter, or sorry, the first few quarters. Didn't perform well over the last one, but in general, I think the +3.5 is a really good line here. Anytime you're getting the field goal plus a half a point, we love that
Yeah,
as value dogs representatives out here.
huge.
I will say it's doing the same thing that the Jags line did, as it started at +4.5 and it's now gone to 3.5. So people are on this line as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If we lose all of these, again, it's on the NFL right there in Vegas. They're conspiring against us.
Goodell, man, he just can't let me be happy. He's so jealous of me. Yeah, last thing on that, that was a very good point. But yeah, this Vikings defense, Todd Bowles loves to bring pressure. He loves to blitz the quarterback. He loves to put pressure on the quarterback. He just faced Caleb Williams, who last year was the third most sacked quarterback in the history of the NFL. Caleb Williams wouldn't get rid of the ball if somebody was begging him to. Um, and only got sacked twice. He's going up against Michael Penix, who is already considered one of the best quarterbacks in professional football at avoiding sacks. Is it because he's so wiggly in the pocket? No, he gets rid of the ball so fast. So I'm very curious to see what Todd Bowles does without the biggest arrow in his quiver, which is pressuring the quarterback. Because Penix is you can't pressure him. It's like you can bring 10 guys if you want. If he's getting rid of the ball in a second and a half, they don't have time to get to him before he gets rid of it. So I just think he's kind of taken away the biggest strength of this defense just with the way he plays football. So I'm excited to see how that looks.
Yeah. All right. With my final line, final value dog of week two, I'm going to go to Monday night. We're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Houston Texans. I had +3.5 for the Texans last week, and they didn't cover because their offense sucked. And now they started the week -1.5, and they're up to -2.5. People are betting on the Texans to win this game against the Buccaneers, and I just don't see it. The Buccaneers looked so good. It's +2.5. Like, I want to put money on this right now, and I can't because of where I live, but I just am so excited for this game. I feel like this is easy money for the Buccaneers +2.5. I don't really have much else to say. It just feels like free money. It's the perfect value dog.
Yeah, I completely agree. This line makes no sense to me. I feel like the Texans and their defense is good, but their offense is very confusing. I think maybe we just kind of got hoodwinked by CJ Stroud's rookie season. Like
Yeah.
maybe that's just really not who he is because it was all last year and then that first game he just did not look very sharp. So we'll see what we get out of them, but we know what we're getting out of Baker Mayfield and this Buccaneers offense, and that is 17 to 35 points a game. They're just locked into. Can't remember the last time that team didn't score two touchdowns. So excited for that. Emeka's a stud. Baker's a stud. Let's play.
Yeah, you got those two. You've got Mike Evans. You've got Bucky. Like the offense for the I just really don't get it, man. The offense for the Buccaneers is so good. Bucky Irving is a lead running back with Rashad White as the RB2, along with the fact that, like I was just saying about the Falcons, like Vita Vea is going to be the guy pressuring the quarterback for the Texans, and the Texans' offensive line sucks. That's why Stroud's been pretty horrendous over the last couple of seasons. It's because their offensive line has been pretty bad. And the fact that now you've got the greatness of the Bucs defensive line right now coming up against that, like I am excited to see Vita Vea get 3 sacks. I don't know what we're doing here.
Lock it down, man. It's there.
Oh, all right, dude, we did it. We made it through everything, about an hour. So we will take that. Do you have anything to say, anything to get off your chest with regards to Seattle sports before we sign off here?
Big week, man. Let's hope the M's can keep it up.
Yeah, really, really hoping for M success. All right, well, if you enjoyed this episode of Sound Up Seattle, please feel free to give us a follow. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Obviously, we're live there, like we said earlier. You can find us weekly there on Wednesdays or Thursdays. We'll try and do announcements the day of so that you guys can check in as needed. But for now, you can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Sound Up Seattle, all lowercase, all one word. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening at Sound Up Seattle. You can email us questions, comments, concerns, your love and adoration about our value dog picks, because we know that we've got all 6 of these right today, at soundupseattle@gmail.com. You can find me, Tyler, at TyCart50, everywhere that's important, and you can find John.
Play a lot of college football 25. It's a fun game. Football just started, and I found I'm all the way back in.
Wow, he's off the fantasy games for the first time in a while. I love to hear that from you. Not back on the 2K basketball yet?
Yeah, I'm kind of a jock. I play a lot of sports games.
All right, with all that being said, I got to hit with the Go Nurse. Go